the answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
So, The Life of Chuck. This was directed by Mike Flanagan, who also wrote the screenplay based on a short story by Stephen King, a relatively unknown writer who's really hoping to get his big break one day. It stars Tim Hiddleston, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Karen Gillan, Mia Sara, and Mark Hamill. So first I'm going to give a brief review and kind of overview of the movie without spoilers. And then Ryan and I will discuss the movie in more depth with tons of spoilers. So don't worry, I will give you the heads up.
Stephen King, he's so interesting to me. I think he really is such a dynamic writer because I think of him as like the horror Cabin, like It and Cujo and all these movies. And then he writes like Shawshank, Green Mile, Life of Chuck. Like he's such a... There's no way if I went into this movie and you didn't say that Stephen King wrote this, that I would pick him out of the...
No, he's not a one genre trick pony. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
He is not just a one genre guy.
Yeah, he doesn't just write. He's not a horror writer.
Not at all.
Like,
and
this guy is so dynamic as a writer. It's very fascinating.
It is. I completely agree. And in no way did this ever have a glint of a horror film.
No.
To me.
But at times it did feel Stephen King-esque. Like there were elements of the story that I felt to me were very, and we'll get into in the spoiler section.
Okay.
That did feel like, oh, I can see there's a little bit of Stephen King there.
Yeah. Okay, fair. I look forward to getting into that.
Yeah.
And it's, quite frankly, it's hard to give an overview or review of this movie without giving things away.
I know, yeah. Because right from the beginning, you're thrown right into...
Absolutely true. And the format does help propel the story, and I don't think I'll give too much away with that. But anyway, I'm going to give it my best, y'all who haven't seen it. So the movie is broken up into 3 acts and moves chronologically backwards in time. Don't worry, everyone's actually moving forward. But it starts in
Act 3.
Act 3, kind of like at the end, and moves its way back. And I think it's really fascinating the way it does because it has the effect of you retroactively thinking back to what you've already seen, and it recolors and gives you a different, you see it happening, and then 20, 30 minutes later, you get a better idea of why that happened.
Yeah, because in the first act, you're just as confused as everyone else of why they're seeing the things they're seeing.
Exactly.
You're going, where is this going to go?
Exactly. And in this Act 3 that Ryan's referring to, we see, the end of times. And it was the end of the internet. So, it really was the end of times.
That's the real bookend on life,
Exactly.
Once the internet goes down, we're all screwed.
Exactly. So we see, natural disasters, species going rapidly extinct. At least we don't see that. We hear it. And as some of the characters put it, it sucks what's going down.
Yeah.
We get very small glimpses of how some people are handling this. So one of them's Marty Anderson. He's an elementary school teacher, played beautifully by Chiwetel Ejiofor.
So good.
And he attempts to soldier on and keep teaching while you could say Rome is burning, the Titanic is sinking, whatever metaphor you want. It will apply to this. Mm-hmm. Felicia Gordon is played by Karen Gillan, and she's a medical professional, also trying to do her best. And we see a few others trying to cope against a terminal tide as things fall apart.
Yeah, crazy. I can imagine.
And all the while, mysterious billboards and posters appear saying, "Thank you to Chuck," played by Tom Hiddleston, for 39 great years. So we might all starve to death in a couple of weeks, but hey, Chuck, thanks, man.
Appreciate you, bud. Thanks for 39 great years.
You've done us a solid. You know? So to say that these billboards are tone deaf is the understatement of the end of the earth.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's got the same, expression of like, who is this guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Is he retired? Like there's advertisers? Yeah, what?
You know?
I don't understand.
And you can't. He's just sitting there like with a mug, and holding a pen, I think. And
it just looks
sitting at a desk. Hey.
It looks like a retirement,
It does, but he looks young.
Yeah.
So
he looks
39 years of doing what exactly?
Right, exactly.
We will find out. So people ask who Chuck is, and no one knows. And we don't either, yet. Act 2 and Act 3 introduce us to Chuck, younger Chucks, and take us back to his childhood, which was, not easy.
No, God.
Definitely not. And as the movie progresses, we get some answers to things that had happened earlier, but certainly not all of the answers.
Yeah.
So let's discuss aspects of the movie in a little more detail without spoilers yet.
Yeah, this is going to be tough.
It is. So once we meet Chuck, the protagonist, he seems like a pleasant enough guy, The narrator tells us as much. I'm going to ask you about that in a little bit because I know you have opinions about narrators.
I do.
Yeah, so I look forward to discussing that. But we see very little of what makes Chuck tick, quite frankly. We don't get to see... Sorry, we do get to see a really fun dance sequence, and we get to see that Chuck is, light on his feet and creates great angles.
Yeah, he's full of life.
Exactly, but even he doesn't know why he stopped and danced. There's a woman busking playing drums, and he just feels moved to dance, and she does ask him later, "Why did you stop?"
And he can't answer.
He can't answer that.
Yeah.
And so we can't either, obviously. So the next act, again, will answer some of those questions. But I'm wondering, because we've seen so little of Chuck, are we engaged and do we care? And that was something that I was finding myself asking. So Ryan, I have two questions.
Okay.
By the end of Act 2, did you care? Did you feel engaged? And what did you think of the use of the narrator? Because if I don't know who if I don't know who the narrator is, my mind will not be quiet. I keep asking, who is that? Why are they talking?
Yeah.
So I want to, before we get into the spoiler territory, I'd love to hear that.
Okay. Yeah. So I think for me, by the end of Act 2, I think I was mildly intrigued, I think is the right way to put it.
Okay.
I was mildly intrigued because it was more of Kim coming from a place of, where is this going to go?
Me too. Yeah.
What is going to happen next? Like, I don't know where we go from here, but this is something that I was meddling on when I got out of the film the other day, was like, we didn't really... we got so little of Chuck at 39. We got little of older Chuck, if you want to say, middle-aged Chuck, if you will. That really this movie to me was about him as a child, because that's the character I most was able to relate to, or I got the most out of.
Yeah.
Like, I really had no idea who the person Chuck was at 39 or whatever. It gave us nothing. It was just a dance, and then we were gone.
And that's precisely why I'm asking that question, because that's what I asked myself.
Yeah.
Because Tom Hiddleston is supposedly he's the lead, and yet I felt like they buried the lead, and I felt like I knew very little about him. And I love what he did with what little he had.
Sure. But to your point, we got like 15 minutes of screen time of the actual lead actor in the film.
Dancing.
And
primarily.
Like, how much dialogue did he speak? I mean, maybe like 6-7 lines.
Brilliant scene with his neighbor. But that was Ejiofor's neighbor, Chiwetel Ejiofor's neighbor.
Oh, yes, love that. It's interesting that they chose to spend so much time in that first act.
Well,
or should I say the third act,
and
that we see first of the,
agreed.
Without spoilers, it's kind of hard to.
I know.
But it's interesting to spend so much time there, because we had probably, I'm saying 30, 40 minutes before we went into Act 2.
Agreed. And I love him as an actor, and we're gonna get into that more.
Tom or
into Chiwetel.
Okay.
Ejiofor and his character. The school teacher.
Beautiful.
Wow. But I did ask that for a reason, because here we are through the second act. I'm like, I'm trying to care more. I want to care more.
Right.
I think that because the performances are fantastic, and I loved the dance sequence. I really did. I didn't know if I would, and after a while, I'm like, come on, how can you not like this?
Yeah.
You know,
of course.
But I also found his not knowing why he danced. That's part of what propels you forward, I guess, with the story. But I found it pretty unsatisfying.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was a little bit frustrating.
It was explained to a degree later, but their explanation actually gave me more frustration.
Well, and to me, again, I'm trying to dance around spoilers here,
hard.
But giving like the reason we know, I guess later, why he chose to dance like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would he not know that about himself?
Well, I can answer that, but it would be a bit of a spoiler.
Okay, so we'll
so how
we're
about
coming
if we
up
do
on
this?
that.
Exactly.
I promise you, folks,
will.
we're getting there soon.
So why don't we touch
us.
on exactly? Please.
Wait, so the narrator.
Yeah, go for it.
So who was the narrator, by the way? It was a voice I recognized.
Oh, see, I'm going on 4 hours sleep. Hold on, because I know I can come up with it.
I think it was. It wasn't it the guy from.
I can see his face.
I know, me too.
Oh
God, I feel terrible.
Me too. And y'all out there, it's early.
Yeah, but for me, I feel like I didn't. I guess it's just one of I had to Nick Offerman. Yeah, 100%. Knew exactly. Yeah, that voice is so. But to your point, and what I've spoken about before on the podcast that you referred to, narrators to me, it's got to be like a really specific reason. And I know some books just have narrators because it's kind of like told from a third party perspective. Mm-hmm. And I get that, and I guess like I just had to suspend belief here, and I just had to like.
Me too.
All right, I guess it's just because it's a book, and
me too. It was challenging though because Nick Offerman had he added a certain type of personality,
mm-hmm.
and he was very lighthearted
mm-hmm.
about the whole thing.
Yeah,
and he seemed to have a dynamism that adult Chuck didn't have.
Sure.
But it also just made me, is this the voice of God? Like, who the fuck is this?
I know. And for me, it's like so much more satisfying if it comes to the end and the narrator is a character in his life.
See, exactly.
And
then it
reading
makes sense.
A letter or, you know what I mean? That to me is so satisfying.
For me too. And so this was not Chuck at any age. It wasn't a character in the movie.
It was just
it was
a
voice to add exposition.
Sure.
For all the things all the depth they didn't give him that filled in verbally.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chuck is this and Chuck has done this and okay, we don't get to see it.
Yeah,
we're just being told that.
Totally.
And I that's where it's like, I want to love this. I want to.
I know, yeah. It's a little bit frustrating, yeah.
So one of the beautiful things was Chiwetel Ejiofor. We've absolutely hammered that. But he just adds a warmth and humanity to just about everything he does to me. Even when he's the ultimate villain, like he was in Serenity, I loved him.
He is so good.
And I loved Mark Hamill as Chuck's grandpa. So much fun to watch.
Oh, he was so great.
So much fun.
Such a teddy bear.
Such a teddy bear. And then Mia Sara was engaging and endearing as Chuck's grandma.
She was great.
Yeah, she really was. Cody Flanagan and Benjamin Pajak as younger Chucks were really sweet. And Matthew Lillard, that's the neighbor, as Chiwetel Ejiofor's neighbor, killed it in his 2 minutes on screen.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
He was just so good.
That was a pleasant surprise because I haven't seen him in a lot recently.
Yeah, me either.
And he's a 90s favorite.
Yeah, I was happy to see him. I did think of Scooby-Doo, I have to admit, when I saw him. But he was just so good.
Yeah,
and
he
I
had a
love
great
when
role.
people that you recognize have a small role in a film and just hit it out of the park.
Yeah, he was impactful.
Yeah. And not an easy role to play.
Totally.
You know, this was the end of times. How you doing?
You're right.
You know?
Yeah. How's things on your side? Yeah, exactly.
So it's just to add context of the kind of viewer I am. Look, I cry at commercials, okay? And I provide that context because I can be a light touch. And as I've said, there were moving moments in this, and I absolutely loved aspects of it. And it attempts to make us ponder some big questions, and I really appreciate that. And it was beautifully shot. And because of certain things that nagged at my mind, which we'll get into more, I was left liking it, enjoying it, but not loving it.
That's a great way to put it. I feel the exact same way. Where it was like I went into this really wanting to absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It seemed like like something that was perfect for the podcast. I mean, look, we started this podcast to explore what lessons we can learn from a movie. And looking at the trailer for this, you're like, oh, this is our bread and butter.
I totally agree.
And then I think the potential was there.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it did hit on some things. It did ponder some, big questions. It did make me think. But I didn't feel much. And
Me either.
I was never emotional. And I'm an emotional guy. I cried at movies all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so we're both adding that particular context.
Absolutely.
And it didn't hit me either.
Didn't hit me.
And so in that sense, for me, it was unconvincing.
Yeah, it was a bit of a letdown. I don't want to take anything really too much away from it because there are elements I like and the performances were fantastic, but overall I think it came in a little bit under what I was expecting for it.
Yeah, which is
a
bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we see if our stars align on
I
this
do
one?
have to look at this one because
Me
I
too.
saw this a little bit ago.
Me too.
But let's see what kind of grace I gave it.
Me too.
I always try to give it the benefit of the doubt here.
Me too.
Okay, so we're looking at the stars that we gave on Letterboxd. And
because I gave it on, 5 days ago, I was like, oh, is that what I gave it?
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so let me see. I think
So
wow, you just threw me for a loop now.
You had the same reaction. Sorry.
You kind of threw me for a loop there. I'm thinking you gave it 3.
You are correct.
I gave it 3 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was going to be my guess. So.
Yeah. I gave it 3 too.
Okay. And that shows, look, we did appreciate what it did well.